Well, hey everybody, John Riddlin here, and this is every NXT Takeover World Title match ranked from worst to best. I had to come up with a different way to say the title because I was like, okay, every NXT Takeover Championship match. Well, no, then I'd have to include the women. I already did one about the women. I just did one about the tag team titles. There should be a link up there. But this is about the men's championships. No, not North American championships, even though those could be on a list maybe sometime in a couple years when the title gets defended a little more. This is about the NXT title and also the NXT UK title. Since we've had plenty of takeovers, it's about time I rank these here. And perhaps maybe even in a couple years I might do a redux list of ranking every single NXT takeover event, because I did one after NXT Takeover Brooklyn 4, or just before. The whole point is, a lot of ranking videos to do here. And I got ones coming up for various WCW pay-per-views, and I'll have some New Japan content, stuff like that, but I'll update that in another, in a video at some point, and I'll keep you guys posted if I decide to, change up anything. Check out my Twitter. So let's get on with this, because I'm going to be harsh with some of this stuff, because we got 27 matches to cover, 3 for the UK title, and then 24 for the men's championship, because the first one is Nakamura versus Rude at Takeover Orlando. I'm sorry, this was good. None of the matches in particular were bad, but it was just which ones grabbed me. Now, this was much more of an old school match. Nakamura had lost the title to Rude at the previous TakeOver San Antonio, and it was well worked, but everybody knew that Nakamura was going to go to the main roster. So that kind of took some of the punch out of it. Plus, Rude, who was a phenomenal champion, very old school with the way he worked, working on the legs, working on the arms, that kind of stuff. Being an old school worker, an old school great heel, getting himself over while also getting his opponents over. It just didn't pop to me. So I'm calling this the worst one, though I do want to say this was a good match. It just didn't grab me personally. And then we go to number 26, almost at 25. Joe versus Balor at TakeOver Dallas. This is when the rivalry was starting to get a little thin. Now I did rank their last match up a little bit higher, not by much. But this is where things started to get a little bit much for me. Now, this would have been ranked higher had it been Balor losing to Joe. But they didn't do that. Second straight takeover that Joe lost. And however it was done, whether it was, obviously it wasn't done by DQ count and that kind of stuff. But however it was actually done, Joe losing again, it just didn't really add much. Yes, he would win the title a few weeks later, I believe in Lowell, Massachusetts, Wrestle Ranch. Shout out to him. I believe he was there live, and I believe a few other people were. But which was great. It was great to see a title change take place at a house show. I'm not faulting that at all. But it took some of the starch out of Joe, and Joe never fully recovered, in my opinion. Even though he would hold the title till Brooklyn 2, Electric Boogaloo, and then would drop it there, and then win it back for Nakamura, and then drop it in Japan. Joe never really, he got a stop-start thing with the title, pretty much the same as Nakamura. It was a good match, I just didn't care necessarily for the fact Balor retained. Though, hey, that house show finished, that was pretty cool. But again, 25, Aleister versus Lars, TakeOver Chicago 2. I'm sorry, and I'm not even focusing on the botch. Yes, the botch, Black Mass, whatever. Botches happen. This just didn't work for me. It just didn't. I almost put this as the worst one. Lars did the best he could with Aleister. I actually thought, okay, maybe there's a chance in the build-up. Bell rang. I'm like, within the first minute, I said, Aleister's retaining. There's no goddamn way Lars is winning. And he didn't. And it wasn't bad. It was not a bad effort by any stretch of the imagination, but this is probably one of the weakest, probably, I'd say the weakest NXT title match that they've had in 2 years. About 2 years, or just in all of 2018, definitely. And I don't mean just the takeover. I don't mean just the takeover matches. I mean if they ever had it defended on NXT TV. It just felt very weak to me. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't great. And the fact it wasn't the main event, I think took away from that. But Gargano and Ciampa still having that Chicago street fight, that brutal Chicago street fight. In fact, I might have to do my favorite NXT feuds list at some point. Do trilogy matches or stuff like that. We'll see. But anyways, I just didn't like it. This did not pop for me at all. Number 24, Rude versus Nakamura in San Antonio. I like the psychology of it, because I was like, okay, maybe if Nakamura wins here, you could have Rude beat him in Orlando, and then Nakamura could get called up. Well, they did it differently, because Nakamura had only had the title in his second reign for not even 2 months. I think it was a month. maybe 5 weeks. It was good. The psychology of working on Nakamura's leg and other stuff. The fact it was old school, I didn't mind that. It went on for a while, though. It should have gone about 20 minutes, maybe 21, and this went almost 30. And it was a bit too long. Just a bit too long. I got no issue with long matches if they're good. This one dragged a bit, and you can't have a title match drag too much. And then we get to number 23, Balor versus Joe, Takeover the end in a steel cage, and it was the end of their feud. Thankfully, thank fucking Christ. They had good matches. They had good chemistry. This feud, I don't have a problem with long-term feuds if they're good. This one dragged. Gargano Ciampa was getting to that point, even though Gargano Ciampa had way better matches. This just didn't fucking work for me. It just didn't. It was better than the Dallas match because at least Joe retained the title. Thank Christ Balor did not win it, back. That would have been insane. But I don't know. Takeover the end was probably one of the weaker ones, even though you had the Revival versus American Alpha, and I forgive me, I can't remember the card all that well, but I know that there was another match that was pretty good. But this was a good match. We knew Balor was getting called up. I don't know. Sometimes, they kind of write themselves into a corner when it's obvious people are going to get called up. So, while not bad, it wasn't great. Number 22, Joe versus Nakamura at Brooklyn 2, Electric Boogaloo. Nakamura beating Joe wasn't really the issue. I believe he even hurt Joe's jaw. I believe, there were a lot of broken jaws. I believe Lars ended up getting a broken jaw because of either Aleister Black kicking him or it was like some other move. But this was a good match. Nakamura to gain a big entrance. Joe gained a pretty good entrance. But the fact that Nakamura would win it here, but then only hold it for, till the next takeover and then drop it back and then win it again in Japan like a month later and then drop it to Rude a month later. Not great. Not really that great. Nakamura never really got a good run with the NXT title. I thought they could have done a little bit better with it. I mean, that's nothing against Joe. I got nothing against Joe becoming a two-time champion, but hot potatoing the title is never a good thing, no matter what company. It doesn't matter whether it was back in the territory days. It doesn't matter where Monday Night Wars. Even though hot shotting happened a whole lot, that was the hot shot era. God damn it. But hot potatoing titles is never a good idea. And NXT doing it, didn't really care for it. This, however, well worked. Nakamura winning, it was fine. We then get Rude versus Hideo Itami at TakeOver Chicago 1. I just didn't like it that much. Nobody fucking bought that Itami was going to win. It was well worked, but nobody bought it. Nobody bought it at all. Like, it wasn't even the main event. Because DIY versus AOP was for the tag titles in a ladder match, and then he got to find out why. Yes, I took a bit of starch out the fact that this wasn't in the main event. In fact, the NXT title has only not been defended at one event, and that was TakeOver Respect. Because Balor was the NXT champion at the time, and he teamed with Samoa Joe to win the Dusty Classic, and then started feuding right afterwards. Dusty finish, Dusty booking. I love Dusty. I miss Dusty. By God, do I miss Dusty Rhodes. But the women also main event, TakeOver Respect, so I get it. It was well worked. It just didn't interest me. It just didn't. I actually, now that I think about it, I almost put this at the worst. And none of these matches are bad. I want to clarify that. In fact, just because I'm ranking them, worst to best, doesn't mean I necessarily hate any of these matches. But looking back on it, whether they're recent or whether they're a couple years ago, some of them have aged well. Some weren't that good to begin with, and maybe I, then grew to appreciate them. Some I didn't care for then, I still don't now. And Rude versus Itami is one of them, however well worked it was. We then get to number 20, Joe versus Nakamura, the second match at TakeOver Toronto. Joe suddenly winning the title back, dubious methods, be damned. Is alright. Wasn't great. Wasn't bad. It just wasn't great. I didn't care for it. Joe winning was like, okay, why? What the fuck? And then all of a sudden, it's like, okay, that happened. I don't know. I didn't necessarily care for it. Trust me, I'm going to be a little nicer once we get to other title matches here. But for now, we're having to slog through some of this shit. Is all right. I guess the shocking title win is why it was back up here. Joe suddenly winning. Number 19, Owens versus Zayn at Unstoppable. This is unfortunately when Sami Zayn had a shoulder injury. He injured it, doing his entrance when he faced off against John Cena for the U.S. title when Cena was doing the U.S. Open Challenge. And Kevin Owens rather was the NXT champion, had won the title from Owens, or Owens won the title from Owens. Jesus Christ. Owens won the title from Zayn at the previous Takeover, which was a good match and a much better match than I'll let you talk about here in a bit. This was what it was. You had Owens win, and then you had Samoa Joe show up, as he was beating the shit out of Sami Zayn. It was a way to write him off because Sami Zayn needed shoulder surgery and then was off, I believe was off till the 2016 Rumble, so he was out for about 8 months. But this was good, but just, there are other matches better, and I'm going to get to that here in a bit. We then get number 18, Neville versus Bo Dallas, a ladder match at Arrival. Yes, I'm counting Arrival, because with a goddamn takeover event, even if they want to just sweep it under the rug, no, you shoot, you get out of here. They just throw it like that. Throw it like I did that ball. Take this remote. Throw it like that remote. Didn't throw the remote nearly as hard. Don't want to pay for another one. But anyway, I like this match. Bo Dallas was a great heel. A fucking great heel. Really good, just thinking he was better than he actually was. Even though Bo Dallas actually is a pretty damn good worker, and it's a shame he doesn't get a chance to show it. He was good as being that just overcome, but he thought he was a babyface, but he was obviously the heel because he was trying to motivate the crowd, but he was talking down to the crowd clearly. It was really good stuff. I really did enjoy it. Yeah, okay, there are a bit better ladder matches, and there would be better ladder matches for TakeOver a little bit later, maybe even a year plus later. It was good. It obviously wasn't great, but Neville finally winning the title, Bo Dallas would then get called up to the main roster soon afterwards, even though he would try to get back into NXT, and he would be banned from NXT. I think they probably should put Bo Dallas back in NXT a little bit. Just something. Send people that they're not using into NXT and this kind of stuff on house shows, whatever. Let people get open. I don't know. It just seems like, they got too many people and they need to find a way to use them better and everything instead of having to just sit on the goddamn sidelines. Send some of these others that are not being used, that are of different nationalities, over to NXT UK. Have Becky Lynch show up in NXT UK. I mean, I know she's, as of the recording of this video, she just had won at WrestleMania, but still, have her show up there. Have stuff like that happen. Have the Iconics show up in NXT UK. I'm sorry, let's do some stuff with the brands and all the people that we have that we don't, and various people. But anyway, that's a whole nother rant for another day. It wasn't a great match, but I enjoyed it. There were some cool spots, and Neville hitting the red arrow, that was really, really cool. And Neville actually being a pretty underappreciated NXT champion. We then get to number 18. No, wait, let's see. No, number 17. Sorry. Gargano not in this one, but you did get, because Gargano was facing Ricochet for the North American title, you get Ciampa versus Aleister Black, a TakeOver Phoenix. Look, it was a good match, but nobody fucking bought that Aleister was going to win the title back, because we knew where it was going to go. It was a stopping point. It was a good match. Derb and I did a review, when it first happened, obviously when the event first happened, a couple months ago. So I'll put a playlist at the end of the video that you guys can check out for the full thoughts on that. It was good, but I think the crowd was even a little muted, even though they liked, they liked, but, obviously hated Ciampa because he was a hated heel. And then you had, Aleister Black, who was trying to reclaim the title. Just nobody bought it. Still a good match, though. And then we get to number 16, Owens versus Zayn at Rival. Sami Zayn had just been champion, just beat Neville a couple months before. Owens had laid him out soon after. Powerbombing him into the apron, which, as we know, is the hardest part of the ring. And also, laying him out, they get this match. And due to referee stoppage, after 20-something minutes, I think it was 23 minutes, Zayn is suddenly out and he can't continue, and the title's just awarded to Owens, which I actually like. I liked it because Zayn didn't get beat clean. He got beat because he just simply couldn't fight back, and it made Owens look like an absolute goddamn monster. I don't get why people don't like Kevin Owens. He's entertaining. I don't fucking get it. But whatever. That began his NXT title reign that would actually last for a number of months. We then get to number 15, which is Neville versus Tyson Kidd at TakeOver, the first TakeOver. It's not the first TakeOver. Arrival's the first TakeOver, but I digress. This was in May of 2014, featuring the Natty versus Charlotte title match for the to crown a new NXT Women's Champion. This is good. Tyson Kidd found rebirth in NXT. The whole fax thing and all that stuff. And I'm really glad that Tyson Kidd has a great quality of life now and that he was able to survive that horrific neck spine injury. Same one that injured Christopher Reeves. But it's a real shame. It's a real shame that Tyson Kidd was not able to continue wrestling because he had finally found his groove and everything. Him and Cesaro were an incredible tag team. But anyway, he was challenging Neville here. Neville was still the fiery babyface, a champion that wanted to take on all comers. And Tyson Kidd was a hated heel, and it was great stuff. Go back and watch this match. Number 14, Rude versus Drew, Takeover Brooklyn 3. Drew winning was great. Rude needed to be called up probably before this, honestly, but because he was too good for NXT. And I'm not saying NXT is bad. I'm just saying there are some veterans that you put in NXT for a little bit, and then you call them up because you got to have them on the main roster and get the most out of them if you're going to pay them a whole bunch. And same with Drew. Drew was in NXT for maybe half a year. Well, then he got injured. And I'll talk about that match here in a bit. But Drew got this big entrance, so did Rude. Drew ended up beating Rude. It was a good match. It was well worked. But then part of the reason I put this up as high as I did, even though I could have put it higher, was Drew celebrating, and then suddenly you have a few people attack. It's the Undisputed Era, and of course they are led by Adam Cole, Bay. I cannot do the creative ones like Derb can. But this was good. It was a good match, and it was a way to, transition immediately out of Rude being in the contention because he had lost the title, and you go to Cole and Drew right there, even though that wouldn't end up actually happening because Drew would sadly get injured soon after. But a good match. Then we get to Balor versus Joe at TakeOver London, number 13. This was good. This was the best match they had on a TakeOver. My personal opinion. Sure, there were certain things that kind of angered the crowd and everything. The whole blood thing. It was a blood thing here. And did they do it also in Dallas or something like that? I forget if it was inadvertent, but you had Balor dressed up as as Jack the Ripper. Great stuff there. But this was well worked. And Balor beating Joe here didn't bother me. It was just the subsequent other takeover in Dallas that bothered me. But it was good stuff. It was a well worked match. Balor doing having to come back, beat up this big monster. And Joe still had steam left after this. They just took steam out of him afterwards. But this was a pretty well-worked match. I would love to see another takeover in London or, in Blackpool or stuff like that or wherever. And hopefully, the UK brand does another takeover. I just don't know when they're going to do it because I don't think they can do too many. January, May, September, and do that. Don't do more than 3. The UK brand's kind of stretched thin as it is, in my personal opinion. But I talked about that in other videos. I might do another one at some point about the current WWE product and talk about again how maybe look at different aspects, how you need to cut down on some of the brands they have. But another story for another day. Balor versus Joe was a good match, and then we get to number 13, Andrade versus Drew, War Games 1. Andrade winning here was fucking terrific. I'm not complaining about that at all. Drew's arm injury, tearing his bicep. Yeah, it was terrible. I was certainly shocked to see Drew lose the title. Nothing against Andrade. I just thought, there's no way Drew's going to lose. Now, maybe the plan was always to have Andrade beat him, and then you go from there, and then you have Drew maybe show up in the Rumble, which probably would have been what they were going to do. But unfortunately, got injured. Whether they call it an audible or not, doesn't matter. Andrade got the victory. Great stuff. Huge shocking moment. I loved it. I fucking loved it. And I admit I was wrong. I had Drew winning, and he didn't. But it was great stuff. Then we get to number 12, Pete Dunne versus Joe Coffey at TakeOver Blackpool for the UK title. I know that people may want me to rank this one higher. I'm sorry, I kind of can't. I enjoyed it. I liked it. It was main event worthy. It was really fucking main event worthy. Just the big problem with it is nobody, I did not buy for 1 second that Joe Coffey could be the one to beat Pete Dunne. I just didn't. That doesn't fucking mean that it wasn't a great match, though. And Pete Dunne winning by snapping the fingers of Joe Coffey and Joe Coffey tapping out. That was pretty cool. It was a great match, and Derb and I did a review of that. Again, playlist at the end of the video where you can check all that shit out. Scroll through that and find out what we really thought. But it was good stuff. And then we get to number 11, Ciampa versus Velveteen Dream. The Dream is here. The Dream. The Velveteen Dream. War Games 2, Electric Boogaloo. This was really good. It only missed out on the top 10. Really, because even though they got me and I thought Velveteen might actually win, I think we all agreed this was a stopping point for Ciampa before he would start feuding with Gargano again. And that's kind of the thing about Ciampa's feuds is his feud with Velveteen was great. His feud with Aleister was fine. My problem is nobody believed anybody but Gargano was going to take the title from him. So that's what took a little steam. Now, I will say that Velveteen probably gave the best effort. And I believe he was dressed up like Hollywood Hogan here. And I'm just like, what the fuck are we watching? What is this? It was so great. It is so fucking spectacular. Very, very, very spectacular match. Even if the outcome was never in doubt, they did get me a few times. I was like, holy shit, Velveteen's going to do it. Oh, he didn't. He did not do the thing. But good stuff. Ciampa won. That took a bit of steam out of the crowd. But it was enjoyable. We then get to number... I'm taking it back. We get to number 9. So yeah, Ciampa versus Velveteen did get into the top 10, but barely. I almost ranked that number 5, but we get to number 9. Dunn versus Volta, New York. Derb and I did a review up there. You can hear our full thoughts on it. Thinking back to the match, which was only a few days ago as of recording this video, it's still fresh in my mind. I admit that it did go a bit long. You could have cut a couple minutes out and it might have been a little bit better. Not putting anything, not downplaying anything these men did. They did spectacular stuff. It could have had a couple minutes cut out. But still, great stuff. Walter and Dunn just beating the shit out of each other. It was wonderful. It was wonderful stuff, and Walter being the one to dethrone Pete Dunne. And yeah, you know the joke that I want to make that I'm not going to make during this, but go ahead, make it in the comments because you know what joke I want to make every time I say the word dethrone. I'm trying so hard not to make the joke. Let's move on. Number 8, Neville versus Tyson Kidd versus Tyler Breeze versus Sami Zayn. Fatal 4-way. Really good. I like this. I like this one a lot because Breeze was actually taken seriously at this point. Zayn was in his pursuit of trying to become champion, but couldn't take it from Neville. Tyson Kidd still wanted to continue his feud with Neville. And it was just good stuff. It was just really good stuff with 4 different styles, but also somewhat similar. It was just, they had similarities, but they each had their own way of bringing something different to the table. And it was just great stuff. And Neville retaining, it was just wonderful. We then get, at number 7, we get Neville versus Sami Zayn, Our Evolution. Sami Zayn put his NXT career on the line to beat Neville here. If I can't beat you, I don't deserve to be in NXT. And he finally did. I remember being so fucking hyped watching this. Oh god, it was so great. Zayn finally winning. Spectacular match. And then Kevin Owens out celebrating with him, and then beats him up. And it powerbombs him on the apron, which again is the hardest part of the ring. But that aside, great match. Neville's title reign ends. Really good title reign. I believe it took until Balor to end it. And if I'm right, I think Finn Balor's still the longest reigning NXT champion. Him or Ciampa? I think Balor. Yeah, I think Balor. Balor just beat Ciampa by a bit. Who knows, maybe Gargano will beat it. But that was good stuff. And then we get to number 6. Aleister Black versus Andrade. New Orleans. You could argue that maybe I ranked this one a little bit too high. But I enjoyed the chemistry. I thought that Aleister and Andrade just did great stuff. I find it so funny because I never knew that Aleister and Zelina were together until I saw pictures. Oh, they got married. Well, great for them. Honestly, great for them. But just Aleister picking on Zelina saying, wait, I need to get down to your level, and just sitting down talking to her because she's short. Because short jokes are funny. They are. I don't really care what anybody says. But I loved it. I thought the match was great. I thought the exchanges were great. This match was spectacular. Andrade was going to get called up. Aleister got the victory. But a very, very good match, and definitely worthy of being the main event, except you had Gargano and Ciampa in the unsanctioned match, which blew this out of the water. No offense to Andrade and Black. Andrade's title reign's kind of forgotten about as being pretty goddamn good, even though it seemed like it was almost unplanned. But they rolled with it because Drew got injured. And I thought Andrade did a phenomenal job with the title. But then number 5, we get Finn Balor versus Kevin Owens ladder match at Takeover Brooklyn 1. This had to follow Bayley versus Sasha. Good luck, guys. They actually did a pretty good job. Good ladder bumps. Balor had won the title at Beast in the East. It was pretty obvious what was, it was pretty obvious. Because I think Owens only had the title for 5 months? Something like that, just under 5 months. But then he was going to go to the main roster, and it was good. I enjoyed this. Balor winning, ladder bumps, cool stuff. Balor retaining, held the title for a number of months. Held the title till I think the following April. I think it was like mid-April. I think it was like April 21st or 2nd that he lost the title in Lowell, Massachusetts. Lol. But I enjoyed the stuff. Then we get number 4. People should not be shocked this is in the top 5 given how much I praise this goddamn match. Pete Dunne versus Tyler Bate for the UK title. Chicago won. Best match of the goddamn show. Best match. Easily. It was fucking tremendous. And I think it was the second match. It was just well worked. The fact these guys went all insane with these, the bumps of the 4. I think it was like Bate tried for like some dive off the ropes and Dunne just forearmed him. Bate did the thing where he dives into the ropes, springs off with his head, and hits a clothesline. Dunne just doing some great thing, doing the breaking, snapping of the fingers, just doing some great stuff. But finally, after a dive was missed by Bate, bitter end in the center, 1, 2, 3. Pete Dunne would win the UK title and actually just recently lose it at Takeover New York, which was actually really, when he lost to Walter. But that was great stuff. I can't praise this match enough, even though I have, so go watch it. 2 young guys that are literally the future of the business that they want to be. They just really are that goddamn good. Pete Dunne may actually, and Derb and I have talked about this, he may go down as one of the greatest wrestlers of his generation. Easily. Of the last 20 years. By the time things are all said and done, if you take the totality of his career and you look at how other people started around that age, he could easily be one of the best wrestlers of his generation, of this era. And I saw both Bate and Dunne at a Defy Wrestling show last July, I believe. Last July or August. I think it was July. Maybe it was August. Whole point is, great stuff. I fucking love watching those guys. I could watch those guys wrestle like forever. But it was Bate and 7 against local guys, and then Dunne, I believe it was Dunne against Brody King. And Dunne picked him up. Brody King's about 300 pounds. Not a small guy. But anyway, Dunne versus Bate was tremendous. And then we get to number 3. It's Gargano versus Ciampa, last man standing match at Brooklyn 4. Everybody get on the floor and do the dinosaur, as the Derb would say. Loved it. Absolutely great. It was supposed to have Alistair in it. It did not have Alistair in it. And we ended up seeing these 2 guys just go at it, where it was the 3rd match that they would have in a number of months, and it was supposed to blow up finally at Brooklyn, or, Takeover New York, which was actually at the Barclays Center, but whatever. Let's not go into the whole thing of geography. This was, I'm just saying they could have said Brooklyn 5 if they really wanted to. But the Barclays Center is in Brooklyn. Anyway, tweet in the comments if I said something wrong there. I enjoyed this stuff. Gargano, Ciampa just beating the shit out of each other. It was just great. Unsanctioned Chicago street fight, last man standing. They would have had to have had a goddamn Inferno match or something to have it be like anything. It probably would have been 2 out of 3 falls, but still, I fucking love this match. It's great. It might have actually been the weakest match of their trilogy, and it was still a 5-star classic easily. Number 2, Gargano versus Adam Cole, baby, in a 2 out of 3 falls match at Takeover New York. Good Lord, this was great. Covered it with Derb. Again, review somewhere up there. Link for it. Hey, Link, listen. No, great match. Cole, Gargano, tearing it up. Gargano finally winning the title. Loved it, even despite all the odds of the Undisputed Era interfering. Kind of made them look like dopes that they couldn't take down Gargano, but he would not be denied. Finally tapped out Adam Cole. I was shocked. Fucking shocked. Great stuff. Number 1, Gargano versus Andrade at Takeover Philly. What the fuck else do I need to say about this goddamn match? It had to be this match. It was 1 and 1A. I almost put Gargano versus Cole, but the more I thought about it, I just loved the storytelling, like Candace coming down and attacking Zelina and running off and everything, and Andrade almost losing the title, and it almost seemed like Gargano was going to win. Oh, it's so close, so close, so close. Maybe it did go a bit long, but still the crowd was fucking into it. Oh my God, Gargano almost getting it, didn't. And then at the end, they're on the stage, Gargano and Candice, and a crutch to the back from Ciampa. Ciampa is back. And then that would start their feud. Spectacular match of Gargano and Andrade. Good God, I don't think the chemistry between these two could have been any better. So anyway, that's what I have to say. What do you have to say? Let me know in the comments if there are any other pay-per-views you want me to cover. Let me know. Like, share, subscribe. Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I will see you soon.